Howdy Mai, welcome to Real Talent Tips and Tales podcast. Based in New Zealand and celebrating the diverse film community behind many of the films and television shows we've loved over the years. The podcast is a spinoff of my book, The Real Deal, Real Talent Tips and Tales. Both aim to inform students and anyone interested in joining the screen industry by sharing career journeys, practical advice, behind-the-scenes stories, and lessons learned from people working across film and television. Today, I'm speaking with an old friend and colleague of mine from the States, Jay Peck. Jay is a multi-talented individual establishing work as a Foley artist, musician, and artist. He is the owner of Stepping Stone Foley in New York. Hello, Jay. Thanks for taking the time to catch up with us today. I'm excited to hear about your Foley work journey and some of the awesome projects you've worked on over the years. Yeah, hello. You're in New York, right?
I am in New York. Yeah, it's a long way away.
Oh, yeah, it is a very long way away. So I've jotted down a few questions around some of the images we put together to showcase your work. But before we dive into those, I'd like to give our listeners a quick overview of your incredible career. Jay's been a Foley artist for theater, film, and television for more than 35 years. In fact, in that time, he's built one of the most impressive and diverse list of credits I've ever seen, with more than 350 film and television projects to his name. And that's not even including his work on New York theater stuff, right?
Yeah,
That's quite a
it's,
lot. Does that make you feel weird?
it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
350 is what I counted. I actually went through
I
it.
mean, the reason they shoot up so that there's so many is that I often work on a job for as little as a couple days and up to a couple weeks.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not, they accumulate pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it's not like the whole 3 months of shoot or whatever is going on.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
no.
So what struck me about your incredible work experience is the variety of projects that you've worked on. There are period films like Roma, Gangs of New York, dramas such as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Station Agent, and Frida. Stop motion and animation films like Fantastic Mr. Fox and The Robots. Sci-fi such as Spaceman, documentaries like the recent Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, holiday films such as Noel, comedies like Spinal Tap 2, and horror films including The Dead Don't Die and Midsummer. You certainly have built up a real variety of stuff to showcase here. And Jay, I also love that you've worked for so many of my favorite unique and creative directors like the Coen brothers and Wes Anderson and Jim Jarmusch. Do you seek out work with these directors? Can you do that, or is it
Um,
something that comes your way because you've established sort of a relationship with their productions?
yes, it's basically because osmosis. When I first started, when I was working at Apropos, uh,
Where we met, yes.
where we met, and I was working on a theater piece, Peter and Wendy doing live sound and percussion. And I was in New York when we were doing the show, and a friend of ours was a manager at a post-production sound studio. And
Hmm.
while I was there, I went and visited, and I was interested in Foley. I didn't really know too much about it.
Hmm.
Somebody had mentioned it to me while doing the theater piece that you should look at doing Foley, and I said, "What's that?" And so then I learned. But it's basically following the action of the actors and all the things they do. They walk, they touch, they all the things they interact with.
Hmm.
Um, and which is what I did on the theater piece, where I scored the movements of these bunraku puppets, which are
Hmm.
Japanese style puppets.
Oh, neat.
And so I was with percussion instruments scoring the movements of those puppets. So anyway, so I went and visited that studio and expressed interest in it. And I came back to Minneapolis to go to my real job at Apropos.
Hmm.
And 2 weeks later, my friend from the studio called up and said, if you're really interested, we are really, really busy and you could be of help here. And so I did. I went like at a moment's notice, basically, left my wife and daughter for a little while to go pursue this. And And then I just kind of never stopped.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
so you don't pick particular projects that you just kind of go along with the flow, like what comes up. Wow, because you've
that
done some
particular
fun stuff.
studio happened to be working with all these really great directors. Um,
Oh, cool.
that's what I mean by osmosis. I happened to be there. I just assisted, and the Foley artist Marco Constanza, who helped me out. Um, I sat and called cues, and back then we didn't have. It was a cue sheet. It would be all on a sheet, and I would go look, call the cues out, and then the engineer would set them up on the computer, and so I was in with him
Hmm.
watching Foley artists do the work, and little by little, I'd go get props, and then they throw me in there to do something, and
Hmm.
that's how I kind of get my foot in the
Wow,
door
it
for that.
sounds interesting. So, for people out there that don't actually know what Foley work is completely, can you kind of give us in a nutshell what it is that you do as a Foley artist?
Sure, we're adding sound to the film after the picture has been edited. So they shoot the film, picture editor cuts it all up, puts it together, and then it gets sent to the sound department.
Hmm.
So Foley is just one part of the sound department. So Foley is doing, like I mentioned, all the actions that the actors are doing with other actors, everything they're touching and interacting with.
Hmm.
And along with the Foley, there's the dialogue editors. That's the main job of in sound, really, in the movie. Is dialogue
Hmm.
is kind of the most important thing, usually, not always.
Hmm.
Um, and then the sound effects editors, which kind of crosses over. We overlap a little bit with sound effects.
Uh-huh.
They take sound effects off of libraries. They'll go out and record things.
Hmm.
So some things I do that too on some things. And then there's music.
Hmm.
So all those elements, everyone's working on them separately, and then they get brought into the mix,
Hmm.
the sound final mix in the mix stage,
Hmm.
and all those elements get put together and balanced, and they play it over and over and work it out. And
Oh,
um,
interesting. So you have to be quite collaborative with those other aspects of sound, don't you?
yeah, we are. But we are all working separately at the same time.
Okay.
So I'll be doing something for, sound effects will cover something, but then they'll want me to do something too that maybe is different, or they work two things together. A lot of things we do end up on the cutting room floor because it didn't work, or
Right, right. Well, that's like in my department, even when I work, you can work like, weeks on some special set and you think, oh yeah, this is gonna be
right,
cool. And then you see it for maybe a couple seconds or at all, like it might get cut.
exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So I know that our next slides are going to help people kind of understand what you do just by example.
Yeah, I
Um,
probably didn't explain that well, but we'll
no, no,
get
I
there.
think you did, and I think it's interesting because it's all post-production sound department
Yep,
that you kind of collaborate with, and I think that that's good to frame it in. But before we move on, I want to make sure to mention that you were part of the team that were nominated for Golden Reel Awards for Fantastic Mr. Fox in 2010 and Bessie in 2016 before taking home a Golden Reel Award for Roma in 2019 and most recently Ripley in 2025. Ripley won an outstanding achievement in sound editing, broadcast long form effects, and Foley, which is a tremendous achievement and a wonderful way to begin our next conversation. So I thought we could
okay,
look at maybe some stuff from Ripley.
sure.
So I put this together just grabbing some screenshots, and I thought maybe you could talk
Mhm.
to this. And I don't know how much of this, and that's where you can clarify how much of it is Foley and how much of it isn't. But my daughter and I recently watched a bit of this series, and we were really struck by the cinematography is just beautiful and the
It
lighting.
really is, yeah.
Oh, it's so incredible. And it really captures this sort of old style filming even, in the way that it's paced and, things like that. But the sound is something that really impressed me as well. Like how clear things are, like the typewriter, the pop of the camera. It's all part of that vibe of creating this period sort of genre look, whatever I'm trying to say. You could hear the
Hmm.
suitcases thumping on the trolley and the body falling to the ground and the cigarette lighter, you know, really clicking, things like that. That I thought that might be interesting to talk about and find out how much of that is stuff that Foley would do.
Hmm. This movie was great to work on because it was
It's a
very
TV
quiet.
series, isn't it? It's like a mini
It's a
series.
TV.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a movie. TV
yeah, yeah.
series. It looks like a movie.
It
It's really, I
does.
mean,
It does. It
it's
does.
gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and there wasn't one thing I should say is that when I said we do all these different things, all the actions that people are doing, the actors, um, usually all that's recorded, or it almost always is recorded while they're making the movie in production. And some of it sounds perfect and good, and we don't necessarily re-record that.
Okay.
A lot of the work is for an M&E, which is stands for music and effects, and it's when it's get a picture's getting made into another language, getting
Hmm.
translated. So they'll take
Oh,
out all of the dialogue in the movie
okay.
and then replace it with Spanish or German or whatever.
Right. Whatever's
They
dubbed.
make a whole M&E mix. So anything that's going on while I'm talking in the movie for the M&E mix, a lot of our work is just replacing sounds that sound fine, but there's dialogue on it.
Uh-huh.
So that dialogue's gone, and now we have to put it back in.
Oh,
So
interesting.
not just sound effects too, the plane going by, the traffic,
Hmm.
um, that stuff is always or often added. But if it sounds fun in production, the only reason to add it is for the M&E. So a lot of the work is replicating those sounds for when they make an M&E.
Oh,
Does that make it?
interesting. Yeah, yeah. So in these particular shots that we have here, outside of doing what you're talking about, if they took the dialogue out, would they
Mhm.
mostly go with the original sound recordings? Because they're probably pretty good at capturing that nowadays.
It depends on the budget,
Oh, okay.
um, and where they are. You know,
Hmm.
they're all, as you know, when you're working on production, you don't have any control over the outside world.
Through that.
You know, traffic or plane or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, explosion or
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
Um, this movie, however, was so quiet and there's so much space in it.
There is, yeah.
Not just I mean, visually, there's so much space.
Hmm.
And in dialogue, there was a lot of space. It's not like so many movies now are just boom, 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 one thing after another, five different
Hmm.
takes of one person walking across the room, where
Right, right.
this is one long take, which is
Yeah, that's what I
beautiful.
loved about it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
great.
cool. Yeah.
It's really hard to if you're doing footsteps to make something like that work, not like this, but in another movie that has so many takes because it's five different takes
Hmm.
of one event.
Hmm.
And often that's cut not in sync. So
Hmm.
when you're performing it, you have to try to cheat it and make it work. Also, whatever I do gets edited.
Hmm.
Uh, I try to do, Foley artists will try to do it in sync, but it doesn't have to be perfect. A
Hmm.
Foley editor then takes out a little click here and there, or moves it to make it to work, perfectly, basically. There's so much space and and detail, and the director, really Steven Zalian, really would finesse these sounds. Like this picture here of the ashtray, which is one of the ones I gave you to look at. That ashtray become if you're in the middle of this, I won't give the thing away, but that becomes a part of this movie that comes back a few times.
Uh-huh.
Um, but when he picks this ashtray, it's this very heavy ashtray. I had got a very heavy glass prop,
Hmm.
and basically you just pick it up off the table. But there's a little more to it than that. But to make it sound, you have to do a little bit of
Hmm.
finesse or whatever.
Hmm.
I'll do multiple takes.
Hmm.
That seems like a pretty basic thing, but Steven would say, and this is when they're doing the mix, the final mix, and he would come back and ask for little things along the way. And I'd come back in the studio, and he wanted a little bit of a ring of the glass. Whereas the dead glass that I pick up, it
Mm.
has a nice solid glass sound.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he would want a little zing, both on the grab
Oh,
and
interesting.
on the slide up.
Hmm.
And it would just add a little. I would try different pieces of glasses often like drinking glasses, different kinds of glasses,
Hmm.
just to add a little ding, and that be like three levels, three or four different elements
Hmm.
just for that glass ashtray coming up off the table.
Right,
But it
right.
adds this
Well,
this
that's what I noticed
quality
with the
that,
film. Yeah, it's like that click. Like I said, you really notice it. Hey,
yeah,
those little subtle things.
and it's so rare
Mhm.
that you get a chance to be that persnickety precise
Mhm.
in a film and to be able to have that time to do it. This was a pleasure to do it because he would, first of all, he liked it. He would ask for things that I didn't think of.
Right.
Um, you can only do so much often on a budget. But anyway, yep. Um,
What's going on here? What did you add to this?
well, he's trying to sink this boat to get
Hmm.
rid of evidence. But so I have this really big old wooden shipping crate is what they used to use. I guess it's probably from the 40s or something.
Hmm.
And I put that in a pool. And what he's doing, he's trying to sink this boat. So he's taking rocks and putting them inside the boat. And on the next shot, if you go to that, he then pulls it out into a little deeper water
Hmm.
and tilts it so the water comes in. It's going to
Hmm.
sink
Starts
the
to
boat.
flood the boat. Yeah.
Right. So that was a challenging thing to try to do.
To emulate. So you had a crate that you actually were putting stones in that was in the water to make it sound like that?
Yeah. Yep. It's like a shipping crate. Big, like, yeah. I can't show it to you right now. Yeah, and put it in, it was like manhandling this thing in a kiddie pool, basically,
Okay.
and getting a gush of water coming in, and all that
Oh, wow.
stuff didn't really have any sound on it. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was,
That's interesting. That sounds like a challenge, but kind of
yeah, that
fun.
was a challenge. That was fun. Yeah, this movie was so fun to work on like that.
Hmm.
More so often there isn't that
Hmm.
space in sound to allow things like that to happen because there's often so much music.
Hmm.
I think you do
For
all this
sure.
work on a project, little fine details, and then you see it. Bada, 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 bada. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
why
yeah.
did you work so hard on that? But oh well. But this movie, almost everything got heard. It really played a big part in the movie. So,
Yeah,
and,
that's so
and
cool. Yeah. So what am I looking at now? You shared a couple shots of, I think it's your computer screen, and what program are we looking at? This is
yeah,
Foley Sessions, right?
we use Pro Tools, which is very common in music and I think all across the board in film stuff too. Um, so what we get is a session
Hmm.
which has all the slugs of what we're going to record. So we go through and get, I can't see it too well here, but um, all the footsteps, it'll follow a character, it'll show an editor makes all these slugs. So we're not going through while we're on the stage trying to find everything. So it's an editor's gone through and decided this is what we're going to record. So that's one session. As you can see, that's a lot of stuff for
Wow.
yeah. Is that's for one episode of East of Eden. Yeah. That other one.
Oh, this one is. Yep.
Yeah. So all the top half of that is all the footsteps for each character that we record, and the bottom is all the props. So we'll go through, and that
I can
probably
see
took
it says chair one, I think, or something. Is that what it says? Like, would you have like, anyways, go ahead. Russell. I can see Russell, like a Russell
Russell's
sound. Yeah.
another element that we do for the whole show or episode or movie. Basically, it's a cloth pass where you just take cloth and move it for every action that actor's doing, and it kind of gives this whole. It's mainly used for the M&E, like I said, because
Oh,
when
okay.
that sound gets taken out, there is a
Mhm.
certain amount of sound that comes with movement,
Right,
of
right.
close. So we're just adding that to kind of keep it real, sounding like you're
Hmm.
there when the new dialogue is put in.
It's
So I
amazing.
just want to show you how what we work on basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. How'd you learn how to do that? Did you just by watching to do all to work with this equipment? This
Well,
program?
I don't really, I'm not on this, I'm not sitting on this end usually.
Okay, cool.
I'm on the other end. It's like I'm the
Make it.
monkey in the box doing the trick.
That's,
Okay, do that again.
that's great.
Speaking of
So
that, so
yeah,
this
yeah,
was a real pleasure to work on Spinal Tap 2.
yeah,
And I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It's pretty fun. It's not as great as the first one, but they did a good job. It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
tragic about Rob Reiner, of course,
This is like a
shortly
bunch of
after.
nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah. But this guy has a glue museum, and he's presenting this to Rob. Um, this is like this very um, exclusive glue that, very old, and he has him smell it, and then he smells it, but it gets stuck in his nose. And then
Ah,
I did the sound of him trying to get it out of there, which is, uh, you know, trying to make things funny,
oh yeah,
which is
yeah, yeah.
which is fun when you get to work on comedies because make it funny, get to exaggerate sounds
Uh-huh.
over the top.
And that's what we're looking at here is some of the stuff that was captured.
Yeah, this shows the recordings that we did and different takes that we'll present to the editor, and he'll fine tune that and maybe mix a couple things together.
Hmm.
And then, that goes to the mix, and they may say, oh, we like this one, we don't like that one. So you try to give them some, especially for things that don't really make a sound, that you're making something up.
Hmm.
Um, could be anything, right? It's very subjective, a lot of the work.
Hmm.
Just like painting, it's very subjective what somebody likes and what they don't.
Right, right.
So you try to give them, especially with, unique sounds that you're creating that aren't there on production, try to give them some options to work with.
Yeah, cool. So I threw this in here because I love this movie, Frida, and I know that you worked on it. And again, I did the same thing where I just did some screenshots of some of the things that like the bus crash is actually really beautifully shot. And
Yeah, that's cool.
it's got these really clear sounds in that as well. It's kind of like trying to capture that freeze this moment in time, you know? And it's the little things that you might notice when you're going through a traumatic experience like that, I suppose, the things that kind of stick with you. And I just thought it's done so well. And so I don't know how much of this again is something I'm learning about too, is Foley, but I remember hearing the horn, like the horn seemed really clear, the fruit dropping, you could hear it boom, 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 as it hit the bottom of the
Hmm.
bus. The bird flapping was really, really clear too. It wasn't just like the bird flying away. You could hear it flapping. Like it was, like I said, it was part of that creating that element of freezing in time, right? Or
Right.
slowing time down. And then things like the glass breaking and stuff like that obviously would have been sound that was really clear. So I was kind of wondering, well, how much of this was fully work?
Well, for instance, the car horn would have been sound effects.
Hmm.
They would get that from a library, or if they don't have it, they would go out and try to find find that noise or
Okay.
create it, manipulated sounds. The fruit dropping would be Foley.
Hmm.
Usually all these little, well, some things can overlap. Like let's say the glass, often the smashing, well, this is a good example. If there's a car crash,
Hmm.
the cars smashing together would usually be sound effects, but I'll often do an impact on a car door, bang it with something or whatever, and that add that sound too. But usually it's the smash of the cars that it's a sound effect, and
Hmm.
the little elements, the glass falling, being brushed aside would be Foley. Um, that might overlap also with
Yeah,
sound.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the
On
bird
the
flapping is probably
bird
sound effect.
flapping, we'll often do bird flapping with little
Oh, do you?
feathers or a
Oh, wow.
small gloves. Try different things.
Hmm.
had to do a really big bird, and the Coen brother, actually it was Joel Coen's. He did Macbeth. If you
Mhm.
saw, it was during the pandemic, so it was all on a sound stage and very little outside sound. So a lot of it was created, but there were these big birds flying, so I had to make these exaggerated huge wings kind of sound.
Oh wow, fun.
But little birds or pigeons and that kind of thing would do. And what was I going to say? Oh, the gold dust. Remember
Oh
that?
yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah.
And I was trying to remember. I remember doing that because I worked on this with Marco. I was still working at C5, and I was kind of the B on the B team there. But I would work um, on different elements when he wasn't there. Um, but I think we did that. I'm thinking with Mylar, like cut up all these little Mylar pieces and kind of manipulated it to make, because often you throw something up, it doesn't really make a sound
Right. Right.
until it hits the floor. But to get something in the air
Hmm.
um, was was tricky.
Oh wow, interesting. So it's kind of an overlapping Foley and sound.
Kind of overlaps. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Another element, this is a example, a gun. Like the gun would be, the shot would be the f sound effects, and the handling of the gun would be Foley.
Oh, interesting.
That's kind of an example
Thanks
of.
for explaining that because I didn't know that. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about this production?
Yeah, this was a friend of mine. The theater that I did some work with was Mabu Mines, and one of the founding um, members was Lee Brewer, and his son Mojo. Um, Lee Brewer passed away a few years ago,
Hmm.
but he had moved to Paris. They lived in Paris for a while. They were doing dubbing movies, as a matter of fact,
Hmm.
um, in 1968. And he always wanted. He was a great theater director. He worked on the couple of productions that I had the opportunity to work on. Um, but anyways, when he was there, he, along with his wife Ruth Melichek and a couple other people that went on to form Mabu Mines, the theater company in New York, that my wife worked on with for 30 years.
Hmm.
Um, he made this film, or shot scenes, I should say. It never became a film. But
Hmm.
after, while he was sick and he was dying, Mojo in France, and he got the film and started putting it together. So there was no script,
Hmm.
there was no story really, and while Lee was on his last days, he kind of explained a few things, but basically it was all these shots, all MOS, which means there was no sound,
Okay.
just motion. Um, so he made a story out of all this raw footage.
Hmm.
1968. It's really quite something. And so that we added all the sound.
Wow.
'Cause, sound. Kind of like a Fellini movie or something, because he
Wow.
shot like that as well. So that was a real pleasure to work on. We actually did a live thing before the movie where he showed the film, and then I was playing along with a couple other people. We did some songs, music, and then I did sound effects live during the movie. But then we went on later, and he came up and we worked together on developing different sounds for the film.
Oh, neat.
Uh,
Have to check it out.
yeah, unusual. It's really cool if you get a chance to check it out.
So here we have, I just thought it was cool because I think that you probably help bring a lot of these, like, I think it'd be fun to work on like alien kind of movies where you're bringing these characters to life, right? So as a Foley artist, can you tell us a little bit about what you would have gotten up to on a film like this, The Landscape with Invisible Hand?
Yes, so this was usually we were always, like I said, the picture gets shot, it gets edited, and then brought to the sound department.
Mhm.
So Corey um, Finley, I have to make sure. Corey Finley was the director on this movie.
Mhm.
While they were, because it's animated, I mean, only this alien's animated, this real life action too.
Right.
But they hadn't animated this guy yet. they showed me drawings and stuff, and he came up here with the sound supervisor, and we worked together on creating the sound. The way these aliens communicate is by rubbing their hands together, their arms together, and they have kind of a texture on there, if you can see it.
Yeah, I can
But
see
I,
that. Yeah.
when we never really saw it, there were drawings of it,
Mhm.
but the way Corey wanted to approach it is that we did the Foley first.
Oh,
So
wow.
we found some sounds, and I tried a lot of different things, but I ended up with a rock with a coconut, a whole coconut with like screws screwed into it to give it some rough texture. And
Hmm.
I would rub that on a kind of a flat stone and really quickly. And that became their language. So we
Wow.
tried a lot of different things. Then he would say, okay, I'm going to read you a line, and you just interpret however you want.
Mhm.
So you would like, hey, Jimmy, come over and cross the street. And I go, or whatever, and I made up these different cadences basically
Wow.
that he would, and then they used that, and then they animated to those sounds.
Wow, that's so cool.
Because I couldn't, it would be really hard to reenact the other way around because it worked. They are so quick, that
Okay.
movement. So, yeah, that was a very unique way of approaching it. It was really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. So I threw this in here because in my imagination, I think that the sound effects for this is so cool. Like working on something like Men in Black, and you worked on Men in Black too. So I just got a couple screenshots, and I was just kind of wondering. I mean, obviously there are things like you sort of explained now. Like if there was somebody breaking through the glass, like we see here, you might deal with the sounds of the glass hitting the ground. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Yep. And then would there be would who would do like the spaceship sounds and the gun sounds and the alien, you know, quirky noises and the squishes and the whatever else that you might come across in the film like this?
Squishes we would do,
Yeah, yeah.
but you like the gun sounds, all those kind of things would be sound
Explosions and
effects.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Explosions, yeah.
Hmm.
I did record. Now, I came on because Marco, he was at C5 and I was freelancing at that time. And he was ill for a while. So they brought me on to finish the film. Um, and I did quite a few things on it, but there was one, I can't remember what her name was, but I used the roll of tape and pulled it apart to get the sound of these strings flying across the screen. I can't remember exactly how that worked,
Hmm.
but I remember creating that sound you know, that was not a real sound, trying to create something that
Right. Right.
not there
Oh yeah.
and giving it a shot. But
Yeah. Well, it seems like it'd be fun working on stuff like that.
definitely,
Mhm.
definitely.
And now we have some horror. Like the horror, we talked a little bit about this before we started this interview, is that, horror films, even though they might not be the thing that we want to watch, they can be kind of fun to work on, right? So
Hmm. Yeah.
The Dead Don't Die, and you shared some really great images here of some of the work that you've done on that. So maybe you can talk to that.
Um, did you get the photo of this one?
I got this.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you can go back to the other one if you want. And
Okay, go
so
ahead.
I'll explain that in a second. So this is a very tongue-in-cheek zombie movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind
Pretty
of
funny.
ridiculous, bordering on ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Jim Jarmusch, I've done a couple films with him. I really enjoy working on his films.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but we are struggling with this head bouncing on the concrete floor. And I tried all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Um, and the Foley editor I was working with had an idea of getting a pig's head.
Yeah. Fun.
So he went and got a pig's head from butcher.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we used it for this head. And they can go to that next shot. That's me bouncing the pig's head basically on the floor of um, to make the sound of that head.
And you were able to capture it then.
Yeah, because nothing really sounded right.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but the pig's head did. So we there's quite a few shots of me throwing this across the floor and doing all kinds of stuff with it. But that's also
That'd be a bizarre day.
it was pretty bizarre, yeah.
Yeah.
And but that's kind of what so I'm watching the screen, doing the things into sync with picture, trying to usually get
Hmm.
it in sync with picture. Sometimes I'll do it wild, which is not the picture, just to get a sound
Uh-huh.
um, that they can move around later. But most of the time, I'm watching the screen either with footsteps or props, doing it to sync.
I
Um,
see.
so that's me trying a few different takes of the pig's head. We also use that pig's head in Midsummer as well for a couple impacts. I'll just leave it at that. But
Oh,
yeah,
did you just freeze it or something?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Never know when it's gonna come in handy,
They
huh?
happened to overlap, and then it was kept in the fridge, and then I froze it until taking it out, but until
Wow.
throwing it away.
Yeah, yeah. So here's Midsummer, and I
Um,
know a lot of people really love this film. Like we talked about this too. Like I have a hard time with horror films, especially I don't know, some reason the older I get, the more I don't really, can't really handle it. I can handle if it's stylized or fantasy, but like I've worked on torture tables for this sort of underworld set dressing thing in Time Bandits TV series, and I've made skeletons for air crashes and things like that. But I just can't, I don't know, the graphic violent thing, I think that it would be very nightmarish. And I don't know how you can handle actually looking at these images over and over again. I made it quite small here, but you had some other images that you would have had to look at that were a little bit more um, graphic and tortury, sort of, I guess, that you would have had to create
mhm.
sounds for. So I'm just curious, how do you deal with that? Do you find that you just kind of get caught up in the moment of trying to create those sounds perfectly that you don't really think about the what you're looking at so much, or does that stuff still bother you?
Um, I don't really like watching horror, but I like working on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's more of the challenge of making, that sound. The engineer that I was working with on this project, he was getting really very squeamish because I think it's harder to be sitting here. I'm at this in his session at the workstation right here, listening to it with the picture. When I'm trying to create a sound, so I'm not caught up in the
Yeah, you're
graphic
thinking
detail.
about what you're doing. Yeah, I've done that with some
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
stuff that I'm creating.
Oh,
People
that's a
walk by and
great
they're like,
squisher. Oh,
yeah,
that
yeah.
punch sounded like it really hurt.
Yeah.
I hit my body and make punches and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I remove myself from the action. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just thinking about the sound.
I was gonna say the guy that's strung up there in the barn. I just wanted to mention how I that was an unusual sound because he's hung up there. He's still alive. They've basically cut him open and his lungs are exposed.
Wow. Yeah.
So they wanted to hear. This is often, what's up. If somebody wants to hear it, then that's our job to do it, right?
Right.
So they wanted to hear the sound of the lungs outside of the body
Wow.
breathe. So that was, what am I gonna? I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I finally came up with something that worked. I thought really well. Although, in the movie, I don't think you hear it.
Mm.
I haven't actually watched the movie after I worked on it because I think there's a lot of music right here. But you know what a chamois is? It's a big
Yeah, yeah.
leather strip
Soft
of
leather.
leather.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that's very thin, kind of like a paper towel, but made out of leather. But this was like a really large one, and I got it wet and soaking and put it flat on the floor, spread it out, and then grabbed it in the middle and pulled it up. And it kind of, I'm not doing a good
No, I
imitation of a
get it.
sound.
I get it. Yeah.
But it gave this suction sound
Uh-huh.
of filling up with air that
Oh.
worked really well. So it
Well, I
was,
can
yeah,
see how you would just get caught up in that moment, right? So you're not
yeah,
really
yeah.
thinking
So
about
that,
it. Yeah.
you know, I thought that sounds great. I don't
Yeah.
want to watch it.
That's so funny. So let's move on to something a little happier here.
There you go.
Yeah, the Fantastic Mr. Fox. So this is one of my daughter and my favorite shows, I think. We've watched it a lot of times. Um,
Nice.
and again, now that I'm learning more about this work, a lot of it would have been sound effects and a lot of it would have been you. So can you talk a little bit about what you did on this show?
Well, the only thing I did on the show was the very beginning. Um, because then they they took the job to California,
Hmm.
I believe. At the very beginning, and this has happened on a few projects where they bring a job to a supervisor and he tries to get the job. So he'll put a scene together.
Uh-huh.
And we did the beginning of the movie,
Hmm.
and then they took it to somebody else. But
Hmm.
they kept that part of the movie, so I got credit for it.
Hmm.
But which was great. I wish I would have got was able to do the whole movie. But yeah,
Hmm.
very fun to do. We did. I think I still have a reel of that somewhere of what we created. Like pretty much every sound, every movement is made up
Well,
because
that's what I thought. It seems like you would have been pretty busy. It's like
yeah,
what scene doesn't need, sound effects and
right.
Foley work. Yeah.
So that again is a combination of sound effects and Foley.
Oh, cool. Do you remember anything specific that you did on the beginning of it that was
I
fun?
remember this whole thing where he's the sleeping bag and he's rolling the sleeping bag up and
Hmm.
just these different inane things, but that were
There was just
challenging
a lot of
challenging to do.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. I love it. And here we have a picture of you in your band. I thought it might be interesting to bring this up. So you have experience as a drummer and percussionist. How does this feed into the work that you do now? Do you think it helps you out? Because I've heard of sound editors talking about or editors talking about beats with the movement and things like that. And I don't know, does that tie into sort of what you're doing? Do you think that it's helped?
I think so. I when I first started, I was playing, I guess I started in junior high playing in rock bands and stuff. And would help. I think it has helped me. It's helped me during like I'm worked on a few movies that have a lot of dancing in it, a couple of Disney projects.
Oh, wow.
And so I will wear headphones and then, I'm not a dancer, but I can rhythmically emulate what they're doing, So
Hmm.
that helps me with I think being a drummer,
Hmm.
um, listening to music and then also giving it some human touch. Whereas if you're just doing the tap 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 and not giving any nuance, it doesn't sound right.
Right, right. So you have
So
that.
listening to music and actually feeling it, helps. I think quite a bit in technique and there's a lot of it is the touch, the human element, because they've tried to replace Foley and they probably will with AI and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And years ago, when I first started doing it, I think they still, some people do it when there's not a lot of budget to have a Foley artist working on it. Have a keyboard program so for footsteps, and they'll follow somebody walking and use a keyboard and follow it like that.
Hmm.
But it does, you're not able to really give it the human
Doesn't have the
quality,
subtleties to it yet.
yeah, subtleties
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to mention about this band. So in 2024, 2 years ago,
Hmm.
um, I had my 50th high school reunion. And the
Hmm.
bass player there on the right, Steve Holmes, and myself it was our 50th reunion. And our band, we hadn't played for 51 years. And we
Oh,
got together and played for the high school reunion.
wow. Oh, fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
And the band's name was Seth.
Death, yeah. And then the following year, last year, we played Jeff, the guy on the left, the keyboard player. You can't see him, Dave Sylvester.
Mm.
Their reunion was last year, and we got the band back together for that as
Oh,
well.
fun. That's so
But
great.
unfortunately, Steve, the man on the right playing bass, he's just the one that just passed away
Oh,
uh,
that's too
about a
bad.
month ago. We're gonna have a memorial for him in a little while, but
Well, it's nice to
sad
be
time.
able
I'm
to
glad we got a chance to do that.
acknowledge him here. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And here we have some pictures that you shared. Can you talk us to us a little bit about this?
This is a theater production that my wife Julie kind of got together
Mhm.
about corn and the crop corn, and there was all these different poems and a few actors. And this Casey Neal, he's a musician from Portland that we knew from another person that we had in common. And then I was playing percussion and doing sound effects. We were up on the side and the action's down in front of us here.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was making live sound and also playing to some of his songs. This is kind of some of the props I would use. You can't really see them too well, but all kinds of,
Oh, I can see you have a whole bunch of stuff hanging from the ceiling, bells
yeah, different
and
dangly things. And
triangles and yeah.
yeah, and the Singer sewing machine was the thing I had to make this machine sound and have a bicycle wheel and all kinds of stuff. I love doing that live, live.
So then in closing, I thought maybe do you have any tips for people that might be interested in getting into Foley work? I know you talked about AI taking over things, but people talk about that a lot in film and even in my department, but I'm finding that other things end up being more important that do need that sort of human touch or that reality thing. And, like props, you see them more. So this seems like we put more attention in those props. It's like, so there's all this background stuff being done, you know, whether it's generated, CGI by artists or if they're talking about AI doing a lot of this stuff. I don't think it'll ever look right. I don't think it's ever going to take over a lot of that. Like you're talking about the subtleties. I think it depends on the money and what people are trying to get, what they're trying to emulate.
Right. Like a
Um,
thing like Ripley couldn't have been done by AI or,
no.
um, there could be productions that have a lot of music that the detail is just kind of lost anyway, but they need something there,
Right. Maybe in
you
those
know?
cases, yeah.
Yeah. Or really low budget stuff. But even that, I mean, you mentioned Station Agent, which was one of the early projects I
Oh,
worked
I
on.
loved that movie.
And that had no budget.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it was very, that's a great movie.
Hmm.
Um, and I worked at it when I was freelancing after C5 for a while before I was hired at Sound One, which is a bigger place. I freelanced at different places in New York. And the one studio I worked at then for Station Agent was like maybe a 10 by 10 room. They had a chair and a toothbrush and a stick. And it's like, okay, do this movie. So you really had to be creative on how
Yeah,
to
yeah.
find, make stuff up. Now I'll show you in a minute, maybe
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the
That'd be
props I
great.
have now, which is too much. But so I was limited, but still, that wasn't a very complicated film. But however, you know, the human touch is going to give it the quality that brings it
Yeah, I
above.
think it's a quality thing, isn't it? I mean, because after a while, everything starts to sound the same or look the same. My daughter's an artist, and she talks about that because people are like, "Oh, doing what you do is going to be replaced by AI," because she wants to get into animation and things.
Mm,
And at first she kind of bought into that, but then she's like, no, the studios that are doing really well, it seems a lot of them are the ones that are still doing it by hand. They're mixing 2D with 3D, this and that and other thing. And
right.
it really is it's that human touch because it keeps it from becoming sort of homogenized. It'll make it stand out more because I think AI is such a conglomeration of so many different things that what it does in the end is homogenizes it. It sort of just, flatlines a little
Kind
bit.
of a generalization of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like even if you use it as a writing tool, it does the same thing. It tends to go to the same wordings or the same words or, catchphrases or things like that. So it's I think that there will always be a place for us humans in the world doing this
I
sort
like
of
to think
thing.
we'll see where that ends up, but it may swing, further into AI and then back again.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
we're
Yeah,
kind of in the
exactly.
midst of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. You're right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things unfold.
Sure. I was also just going to say about somebody looking to get into the
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah.
business if they're interested. Um, I was fortunate to, I had interest in it and I had an opportunity that, I was fortunate, but I took it very seriously. And it's like, okay, it was later in life that it was I was 40 or something.
Hmm.
Um, and, changing a career and had a daughter. And if I was going to make this work, I had to really, give it a shot. And like I said, I was fortunate to be in the right spot.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's the same way anybody getting into it is finding some people or a studio that you really like and see if you can get your foot in the door
Hmm.
with some people. I've had people come. I've a couple classes have come here. A friend of mine teaches at SCAD down in Savannah,
Hmm.
and they have a film department,
Yeah,
and they've
yeah.
come up here, and back when I was at Sound One, we would give tours all the time and show people, what was going on. That was always kind of fun to do.
Hmm.
But if somebody, yeah, is really interested and they contact people like me and other studios, and at the right time, they might need some help and get your foot in the door.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it's like that. And it seems like with any department that I talk to in film, that's often the advice, get on a small production, get on a short film even, or like you were
right.
talking about theater, for Foley, that might be a way to get your foot in the door.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different angles. You got to just keep your eyes open and be willing to try anything, right? And give it your all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. I'm going to give you a quick tour.
All right.
So let's see. I'm going to carry this around. So this is the workstation that the engineer Foley mixer sits
Uh-huh.
at.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has a screen, two screens. The screen over here, the picture is what I see on the other screens in the studio. And this is the session that shows all the cues, and that's the
Uh-huh.
picture. This is the equipment, stuff like that. So mixing board, keyboard, we only use two microphones for ones around the studio, but two at one time. Well, there'll be a close mic and then a far mic. Action's happening close and then they move far away. I can
Hmm.
only move so far in here. I
Hmm.
can do realistic perspective, but to enhance it more and get more room sound, we use a second mic that's placed further away in the room.
So,
I'd rented a place. I got kicked out of the studio I was in Sound One by a big company bought it and they closed it like on Thursday. They said, so happy to be working with you. They get bought by a big company. And
mm,
on Monday they said, get your stuff out of here
wow.
by Wednesday. And so then it was like, oh, what am I going to do? It's like, well, I was thinking about maybe doing it on my own. And so then it took me a while and I found a place to rent and the guy helped let me work in his guest house. And then we found this place and we took out the garage and then we took out the floor. So I have a lot of space from floor to ceiling.
Hmm.
It also has windows, which is, so we're kind of out in the woods here.
Hmm. Nice.
Um, which studios don't have. But after working in Times Square for 9 years and with no windows, and it's very claustrophobic.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
so I have this, it's called laminated glass that's soundproof. It's soundproof to a certain, it's not completely soundproof. Like if a plane goes over, we gotta wait a little bit.
Mhm.
Well, here, speaking of typewriters, there's a nice little typewriter. There's so many things, like I said, that all the actors interact with. This had a kitchen. So there used to be an apartment up here. And so it's running water, sink. Um, Upstairs, I record all the wood floor sounds. There's a bathroom. I have a TV in here. Can use the sink in here and a shower and a screen up there. All this stuff.
Oh, for recording those sounds. Wow.
Yeah. I have a drum room set up in here too, so that's fun.
Mhm.
And Louie, my dog, down here is all the this is solid surfaces to work on. Close these drapes to make it dead for exterior sounds. A bunch of shoes for different.
Yeah,
Uh,
often when I see people doing Foley work, you see like a rack of shoes somewhere. You have to have quite
yeah,
a
all the
variety, don't
shoes
you?
and all this crap. And I was working on, I don't know, some platform here the other day. Different
There you
doors.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, a few car doors over here. Yeah, sports equipment, blah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, just basically anything. Anything and everything can be a prop.
Yeah, yeah. Do,
Boards.
is your brain so like tuned into that now that when you're like out and about, you might think, oh, I might get this when you're at the hardware store or something. That
Yeah,
might make a
it's
really good sound.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I bet.
But now I've stopped. I'm trying not to collect anything anymore because I have all this stuff and I'm getting toward the end here. So what am I going to do with this stuff? It's all basically it's all these broken things. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of it isn't too, but and then I have a building in back that stores more props, things like
Oh
that.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I know that's a thing for props and set deck people that I know is that a lot of them do end up hoarding. Like they'll be out because they're just their brains are so fine tuned to that, right? You go
Oh
out,
yeah.
you're in an antique shop or you're someplace, you're like, oh, this could be handy. This is unusual, and then just kind of end up with
Yeah.
a lot of stuff in their their garage or in their basement just in case.
Um,
Um,
this is the studio.
oh, it's
The
neat.
garage doors used to be,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
even with the laminated glass, they're not real doors anymore. So it's a little, there's like farms over here. It's only like 55 miles from here to the George Washington Bridge. It's not very far.
Mm. That's
So I can
amazing.
get to the East Village if
Mhm.
there's no traffic, which is not that often,
Mhm.
in an hour and 15 minutes door to door. But
Mhm.
that's on a good day. It could
Mhm.
be two
Mhm.
hours and 15 minutes on, the traffic. But yeah, it's not, it's kind of real, it's quite something, this spot.
Hey, it's been great catching
Sure.
up with you.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Um, Good luck with everything. Thanks for reaching out too.
I thank you, Jay, for joining us today. It was fun hearing about your career and your work in it. And thanks to all you listening. Please subscribe for more great interviews like Jay's and check out my website, therealdealcrew.com, for book and other news. Until next time, keep on keeping on.